In the 1930s, young Marguerite Annie Johnson lived within the rigid structure of Stamps, Arkansas. The laws of the Jim Crow South dictated every hour of her childhood, defining where she could walk and how she was permitted to exist. Within those boundaries, she observed her grandmother moving with unwavering strength, providing a silent lesson in how to maintain dignity in a world designed to deny it. At 7 years old, her reality shattered. She survived a horrific assault, and shortly after, the man responsible was killed. The trauma left her with a terrifying conclusion. She believed her physical voice had killed the man. To protect the world from her words, she stopped speaking. For 5 full years, she retreated into a complete, self-imposed silence. How does a child who locked away her own voice grow up to become one of the most powerful literary forces of the modern era? During that long quiet, books became her world. Guided by a mentor named Mrs. Bertha Flowers, she discovered that language offered a path to freedom, allowing her inner world to expand even while she remained silent. By 16, she was living in San Francisco and pushing against the city's racial barriers. She secured a position as a streetcar conductor, the first Black woman to hold the job in the city's history. She left her childhood constraints behind by dropping her given name. She became Maya Angelou, a name she chose to claim her own artistic independence. Decades later, she would write, "I'm a woman phenomenally," but she was already living the poem's themes of self-worth and autonomy long before she ever committed them to paper. Finding her physical voice was the starting point. Deciding who that voice belonged to was her first true act of resistance. Her artistry refused to stay within one border. She toured across Europe performing in the opera Porgy and Bess, crossing the Atlantic to study dance and record music. Then she moved into global journalism, immersing herself in the cultural landscape of Cairo. Her journey eventually took her to Ghana. Surrounded by an active, community-driven society, she connected with a shared African history and began to see herself as the dream and the hope of the slave. By stepping outside the American context, she found a way to bridge her personal struggle with a vast ancestral strength. When she returned to the United States during the Civil Rights Movement, her work took on a new, urgent necessity. She began working directly with revolutionary leaders, including Malcolm X. She also formed an alliance with Dr. King. But the assassinations of both men brought a grief so heavy it threatened to drag her back into the complete silence of her childhood. Instead of shutting down, she poured her devastation into her writing, publishing I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings in 1969. She had learned how to take the deepest traumas of her life and transmute them into storytelling for the unheard. As activists linked arms and filled the streets, her poetry stopped being ink on a page. It became a collective, physical rhythm. Her poem, Still I Rise, functions as a rhythmic refusal to stay down, a declaration forged in the fires of the Jim Crow South. Her reach culminated at the 1993 presidential inauguration. Reading On the Pulse of Morning, she urged the country to face its painful history with courage. The child who once believed her voice was a weapon that could kill now stood before the world, using that same voice to call a nation toward unity. In her later years, she served as a mentor and teacher, eventually receiving the Presidential Medal of Freedom for her contributions to humanity. When she passed away in 2014, her voice didn't fade. Her words remain active for modern resistance and reflection. Her final instruction to try to be a rainbow in someone's cloud reflects the same resilience she watched her grandmother practice decades earlier on a porch in Stamps. Maya Angelou proved that even under the heaviest weight of oppression, a deliberate voice cannot be caged.